Hey y'all, Captain JJB84. Prisoners. Wow, I've had my eye on this film for a long time now. Um, and what do I think about it? Well, I'm going to do a lot of referencing from Chris Knight's review in the National Post. So, let's begin. Prisoner tells the story of these two small children, these two 6-year-old daughters. I think Anna and Joy. One of them is Hugh Jackman's daughter. The other is Terrence Howard's daughter. And they're having Thanksgiving, and then the two little daughters go out one day, and they go missing. They get kidnapped. And you know, I'm 18. I don't know what it means to be a father, but I can only imagine, what that must be like, losing your kids and going crazy to some extent. Hugh Jackman gives an absolutely incredible performance in this. Just as as a I'm trying to find a word to describe him. He's tough to pin down. And there's my little dog having a snooze. Anyways, the only clue they have to their children's disappearance is a mysterious RV that was just parked outside. And then Jake Gyllenhaal, Detective Loki, is on the case. But then after 5 minutes, they find the RV, and it's being controlled by this guy named Alex, played by Paul Dano. And they find it, the kids aren't there, and Alex, he's like this 30-something-year-old guy, has the brain capacity of a 10-year-old. Like, he is a literal retard, so to speak. He doesn't know anything. He doesn't know anything about them. He never saw them. But so he gets questioned, and there's no evidence to say he did it. There's nothing in the RV. There's nothing even where he lives. He lives with his aunt, played by Melissa Leo, who is really good in this movie. This is a long movie. It is 2.5 hours long, and so I made the mistake of buying a large drink. So yeah, you don't want to miss any little thing of it. And it's one of those movies where, yeah, it is long, but I think to myself, well, what scene would I cut out? That's tough to say. I think it's a bit bright in here. There we go. It's tough to say which scene would I cut out. Anyways, Alex is released because, they can't just keep him there. But Hugh Jackman, he's Keller Dover. He thinks, this guy knows something. So, like a day later, he kidnaps Alex, and he has there's this old abandoned building that he takes him to, an old apartment, and basically he tortures him until he talks. And that's about as far as I'm going to go. Meanwhile, Jake Gyllenhaal, Detective Loki, he's sort of trying to figure this, he apparently has a perfect record. He has every case he's gotten, he's figured out the answer to. It is a neat ending, and it is neat, just a really complex film. It is a thriller. You will be getting some thrills, but it reminds me of a lot of other thrillers of this type. It reminds me of Insomnia. It reminds me of what else does it remind me of? Notion of kidnapped children. Blood Diamond to some extent. Kidnapped children, but I guess really. I'll just take a few lines from Chris Knight's review here. The torture scenes aren't pretty, but they are powerful. In one, I was almost audibly asking Villeneuve, I can't pronounce the director. This is made by a Canadian guy, a Quebec guy, Villeneuve, to please not show us Alex's face, but he makes the brave call to implicate us by letting us see what a prolonged beating will do. We also notice that Keller is out of breath. It's a nice detail. Torture is exhausting to the torturer, even much worse on the subject. Yeah, that was Chris Knight makes a good point there, saying that there is a scene, where Keller is beating Alex to death, and you see him, he's panting, he's like, just tell me where they are. He is out of it, and it's really taking the toll on him. Like, Hugh Jackman this is probably one of his best performances, and he's just an incredible actor, one of my favorite actors. The same with Jake Gyllenhaal. To some extent, it almost feels like the movie's a little more about Jake Gyllenhaal than Hugh Jackman. Hugh Jackman has a very scruffy-looking beard in this. Only complaint? Not really. Terrence Howard's good. Viola Davis. Hugh Jackman's wife in this is good. I can't think of much really to complain about it. I mean, there were one or two things I wish they did more. They have Hugh Jackman also has a son, a much older son in the movie. They do some good. There's some really good bits with him, but it's one of those things I think it'd be nice if they did maybe one or two more things with him. But I can understand why they didn't. Um, the ending really got to me. Just like it's hard to describe. It's there's a bit of elements of Zodiac. It almost feels like a David Fincher film to some extent, which you can see as good or bad, but I see it as good. David Fincher's influences really rubbing off. Feels a bit like Zodiac at times. I don't want to give away too much though, because it's one of those films like you should just watch it. It's one of those films like you should only maybe watch it once, because if you watch it again, it just kind of ruins all the little twists and crannies about it. There's a lot of just absolutely fantastic twists and turns that this movie takes. But apart from that, I have nothing else to say. I think the performances are top notch. This was second place, I think, or second or third place at TIFF, Toronto International Film Festival. That's my hometown, Toronto. So yeah, that gives you something to look at, saying, "Oh, this film must be good." So yeah, it is my recommendation and Oscar buzz, maybe. I've seen some reviews talk about it. Hugh Jackman definitely gave a really good performance. But it's neat where he stands on this, because it's neat where Hugh Jackman is torturing this guy. And I sat there thinking in my head, well, if Hugh Jackman is right and this guy did do it, I'm not going to say if he did or didn't. I'll let you figure that out, or just let you watch the movie. If he did do it, then everything Hugh Jackman was doing, Keller was doing, was for the right reason. And if it's not, then he just looks like, then he's just a savage monster. There's a great scene, absolutely incredible scene. Well, it's like this one continuous shot, I remember. It involves Alex being tortured and a hammer. I'll let you draw the conclusions. And a sink. So, my eyes hurt. I have nothing else to say at this point. Terrence Howard is neat, because he doesn't know where he stands on this. He thinks, yes, we need this guy knows something, but he doesn't know if this is the right thing or not. That's not to say he doesn't engage in torture. But I would say this, though, this film is not justifying it. Well, not justifying it, but let's see. Does Alex confess? Does he know anything at all? What's fascinating is that as an audience member, I tried to hold my disgust at Keller's actions until those questions were answered. There lurks within most of us, down in the reptilian core of our brain, the belief that some violence is not only justified but warranted. It's why we cheer when the bad guy gets shot in the movies, far simpler than this one. It's why if Alex is guilty of snatching two little girls for sex or death or God knows what, then we can tell ourselves that he deserves every stinging hit from Keller. On the other hand, if he's innocent, then Keller is a monster. But for the most of the film, no one, not even Keller, knows whether Alex is culpable or even capable of the crime. So, this is one of those films, you can kind of let your mind kind of wander with all the possibilities, like even while you're watching it. But who really did it? It's not one of those things that came out of left field. I thought, whoa, that's fucked up. There was one little bit it was a bit of a head scratcher to me. It's this tiny little bit, but it doesn't bother me so much. I'm not even going to mention it because it spoils a lot of stuff. So with that, I have nothing else to say. This is a very strong film for fall 2013. Already in the Oscar season already. This is getting a solid 9 out of 10 for me. Chris Knight gives it 4 stars, just so you can see there. Prisoners, 4 stars. And I think I agree with him. I mean, well, maybe not 10 out of 10, 9 out of 10 for me. It is lengthy, though. Like, it'll feel, it's 2.5 hours long. It will feel lengthy. But I think it's set in, I was wondering where it's filmed. I think it's set in Pennsylvania, I heard somewhere. Cinematography is gorgeous. Everything about it just looks really nice. But really, it's sort of the study of, how far will you go to figure out the truth, or, a father's love for his children. Like, that's some pretty heavy stuff. Stuff that, I can't really understand to some extent, because I'm just a kid. But there's a lot of good. There's a good element of religion throughout it. At the very beginning of the film, it's a great opening scene. Hugh Jackman is Keller is hunting with his son, and his son's about to take his first shot. Well, he kills a deer for Thanksgiving dinner, and Keller's sort of reciting the Holy Mary, Holy Mary, Mother God, all that, all that. But it is a fascinating movie, and this is called Prisoners. This is just how I see it. I think it's called Prisoners because we're all, to some extent, prisoners of something. Both, literally prisoners and prisoners of something. Like, I see it as, Loki, Detective Loki, he's sort of a prisoner to this case of his. And it's neat to see these two perspectives. Like, Keller is this sort of hot-headed, ready for action type ready for action type person. Loki is more calm and collected. Like, he's sort of, police procedure. He's trying to figure this all out, sort of do careful analysis and all that. But I would like to say this, though. This film, I don't know, like, about the torture thing. I mean, here, Chris Knight says it good. When Zero Dark 30 opened a little less than a year ago, American commentators tied themselves in knots over the question of whether this film depicted torture as an effective means or gathering intelligence, or also whether it endorsed the practice. No and no. I don't think this film is justifying that at all. But again, but then you have to sit there and be like, okay, this guy, Keller, he will do anything to get his daughter back. And I mean anything. The things he does to Alex, they're going to stay with me for a bit. Like, people are saying Zero Dark 30, it's tortures. Scenes are gruesome. This is like 50 times worse what Alex has to go through. Like, this film it left me in a bit of a, I don't know it's hard to say what I think about it, but I think it is a very good film, and I hope Hugh Jackman gets some Oscar buzz. I hope. Well, it's been a Captain's Review. This is getting a nice 9 out of 10, so I'll see you later.